Hey friends, what is good? Derek here from Bomb Socks with more Bomb Bites, where we feast upon the words of Christ one bite at a time. Okay, I want to get you into a couple stories today that are kind of tough stories, but I think they're very instructive, and especially showing you the difference between Nephi and his brothers. And again, it seems like we've spent a lot of time all through 1 Nephi showing you the difference between Nephi and Laman and Lemuel. But you get into chapter 16 after we've been introduced to the Liahona that we talked about yesterday, and after we'd traveled for the space of many days, we did pitch our tents for the space of a time that we might rest ourselves and obtain food for our families. Okay, the Liahona is leading them to the fertile parts of the wilderness, like I said yesterday. It came to pass that as I, Nephi, went forth to slay food, behold, I did break my bow, which was made of fine steel. And after I did break my bow, behold, my brethren were angry with me because of the loss of my bow, for we did obtain no food. I get that. You're in the wilderness. How important is food? How important is food normally to you and I, right? Food is an awesome thing. And all of a sudden, there is a scarcity of it. And so all of a sudden, you see fear and panic. Came to pass that we did return without food to our families. That's never fun, right? Being much fatigued because of their journeying, so they're hangry. That makes it even worse. They did suffer much for the want of food. And here's where verse 20 is a rough story. Came to pass that Laman and Lemuel and the sons of Ishmael did begin to murmur exceedingly, which I think Nephi's probably used to at this point, because of their sufferings and afflictions in the wilderness. And also my father began to murmur against the Lord his God. Yea, they were all exceedingly sorrowful, even that they did murmur against the Lord. So this was probably hard for Nephi. All of a sudden, Lehi's like, okay, he's starting to murmur. That would be very discouraging when all of a sudden your whole family is the one who's murmuring and you're just like, I'm just trying to do what I can. And so I love what Nephi does here. As he sees his family, verse 22, complaining against the Lord their God. I love verse 23. It came to pass that I, Nephi, did make out of wood a bow, and out of a straight stick an arrow. One arrow. Apparently Nephi was a crack shot at this. Wherefore I did arm myself with a bow and an arrow. I don't think any archer out there usually goes with just one arrow, with a sling and with stones. And I said to my father, whither shall I go to obtain food? And I love how Nephi goes to his dad. And this is one of those things where just you see the goodness of Nephi going to his father, who was struggling with his faith at that moment. He's like, Dad, where would you like me to go? What a cool little lesson about turning to his priesthood leaders, turning to his father, and just saying, Dad, where do you want me to go? And at this point, Lehi humbles himself, has some chastening from the Lord. Again, this is not the first time a prophet has been chastened. In verse 25, where it says chastened, you click on it, it takes you actually over to Ether, where the brother of Jared goes through the same thing. I think that shows the vulnerability and it shows the human nature of prophets. And sometimes they struggle as well as they're going through this. I have zero problems with that. But you see the faith of Nephi as he's willing to act. Now you get into chapter 17 where Nephi is commanded to build a ship. And may I remind you that Nephi has never built a ship before. These are great stories on how to respond when you're put into situations that you don't know what to do. You know, the breaking of the bow and the food, that's a tough situation. You get into chapter 17 with the building of the ship. Verses 8 and 9, came to pass, the Lord spake unto me, saying, Thou shalt construct a ship after the manner which I shall show thee, that I may carry thy people across these waters. And I said, Lord, whither shall I go that I may find ore to molten, that I may make tools to construct the ship after the manner which thou hast shown unto me? Which is such faith. I love how Nephi, he's just like, okay, tell me where I need to go to be able to make tools to be able to do this. He didn't come up with all of the reasons why this was not going to work. He came up with like, okay, tell me what I can do to be able to move forward so this will work. Verse number 15, wherefore I, Nephi, did strive to keep the commandments of the Lord, and I did exhort my brethren to faithfulness and diligence. He's working with his family. He's trying to help them through this. Now, you see the contrast with Laman and Lemuel in verses 17 and 18. When my brethren saw that I was about to build a ship, they began to murmur against me, saying, Our brother is a fool, for he thinketh he can build a ship. Yea, he also thinketh that he can cross these great waters. So they're automatically throwing this doubt into Nephi. Thus my brethren did complain against me, were desirous that they might not labor. There's the root of this. They just didn't want to work hard on this. For they did not believe that I could build a ship, neither would they believe that I was instructed of the Lord. So again, you've got this idea of they do not believe that Nephi could do these things. So I love in both of these instances where Nephi has difficult situations, whether it is the breaking of the bow or the building of the ship. Nephi really shows his true character with going and doing. You know, you go back to 1 Nephi 3:7, I will go and do the things which the Lord hath commanded. I know that the Lord giveth no commandment unto the children of men, save he shall prepare a way for them to accomplish the thing which he's commanded them. And that also takes me over to chapter 4, verse 6, where Nephi goes forward, not knowing beforehand the things that he should do. But what does he do? He goes forth. You see this happening. So this is practical application of what Nephi was saying back in those previous chapters. Now, one other cool thing about all of this right here, showing Nephi's faith in doing things that he does not know how to do, and he doesn't know how all this is going to work out. You go back to chapter 16, verse 30. Came to pass that I, Nephi, did go forth into the top of the mountain, according to the directions which were given upon the Baal. So Nephi followed the divinely appointed source of the Liahona, and he found himself at the mountain, which is the Old Testament equivalent of the temple. And you see this 2 more times here. Over in chapter 17, verse 7, Nephi has been in the land of Bountiful for the space of many days. The voice of the Lord came unto him, saying, Arise, get thee to the mountain. And it came to pass that I arose and went up to the mountain and cried unto the Lord. Here's number 2, where Nephi again goes to that mountain. You go to chapter 18, which we'll talk more about tomorrow. Verse number 3, I, Nephi, did go to the mount oft, and I did pray oft unto the Lord, wherefore the Lord showed unto me great things. So this shows again Nephi's faithfulness in going and doing the things which the Lord has commanded, taking that initiative and moving forward with it. And what does he do? He goes to the temple, and those are the things that helps instruct him on what to do. I would submit to you that those same lessons apply to you and I today. I am grateful for Nephi and his positive nature and his willingness to trust in the Lord and move forward in faith. I can testify to you that that is true. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and thank you for sharing these messages. We are so grateful that you do that. And of course, you got to go check out our amazingly comfortable gospel themed socks at bombsocks.com. Godspeed, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.